The angels are saying to you today, it's okay to feel a little lost, because if you think about it, you haven't traveled this road before. Each day you are experiencing and navigating it for the very first time. You're not supposed to know it all and be this perfect person. No one is perfect. In fact, the best way to truly find yourself is to become lost. Then you embrace that uncertainty and move forward. You're on a unique path of self-discovery and self-realization. On that path, you will discover just how incredibly beautiful the soul within you is. Trust your journey. It has so much to teach you. Today's message. Somehow you've changed. You're not sure when the shift took place, but now that it's occurred, you're not going back. The feelings, memories, and thoughts that once had control over you are meaningless now. You're in a new space, a new environment where your mindset had shifted and your entire soul has elevated. The magical effects of the inner work you've been committed to are finally starting to show. As the last few remnants of your old self fade into the background, embrace the incoming wave of energy that's about to take you further into your journey. The signs are taking you in the right direction. Follow them the way you've been following your divine intuition. Jesus heals the sick. When they had crossed over, they came to land at Gennesaret. And when the men of that place recognized him, they sent around to all that region and brought to him all who were sick, and implored him that they might only touch the fringe of his garment. And as many as touched, it were made well. Matthew 14:34-36. When they had crossed over, they came to land at Gennesaret and moored to the shore. And when they got out of the boat, the people immediately recognized him and ran about the whole region and began to bring the sick people on their beds to wherever they heard he was. And wherever he came, in villages, cities, or countryside, they laid the sick in the marketplaces and implored him that they might touch even the fringe of his garment. And as many as touched, it were made well. Faith of a Canaanite woman. Jesus went away from there and withdrew to the district of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman from that region came out and was crying, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely oppressed by a demon." But he did not answer her a word. And his disciples came and begged him, saying, "Send her away, for she is crying out after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." And he answered, "It is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus answered her, "O woman, great is your faith. Be it done for you as you desire." And her daughter was healed instantly. Jesus heals a deaf man. Then he returned from the region of Tyre and went through Sidon to the Sea of Galilee in the region of the Decapolis. And they brought to him a man who was deaf and had a speech impediment, and they begged him to lay his hand on him. And taking him aside from the crowd privately, he put his fingers into his ears, and after spitting touched his tongue. And looking up to heaven, he sighed and said to him, "Ephphatha," that is, "Be opened." And his ears were opened, his tongue was released, and he spoke plainly. And Jesus charged them to tell no one. But the more he charged them, the more zealously they proclaimed it. And they were astonished beyond measure, saying, "He has done all things well. He even makes the deaf hear and the mute speak." Jesus feeds the 4,000. Then Jesus called his disciples to him and said, "I have compassion on the crowd because they have been with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat. And I am unwilling to send them away hungry, lest they faint on the way." And the disciples said to him, "Where are we to get enough bread in such a desolate place to feed so great a crowd?" And Jesus said to them, "How many loaves do you have?" They said, "7, and a few small fish." And directing the crowd to sit down on the ground, he took the 7 loaves and the fish, and having given thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. And they all ate and were satisfied. And they took up 7 baskets full of the broken pieces left over. Those who ate were 4,000 men, besides women and children. And after sending away the crowds, he got into the boat and went to the region of Magadan. Jesus heals a blind man. They came to Bethsaida, and some people brought to him a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. And Jesus took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the village. And when he had spit on his eyes and laid his hands on him, Jesus asked him, "Do you see anything?" And he looked up and said, "I see people, but they look like trees walking." Then Jesus laid his hands on his eyes again, and he opened his eyes. His sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. And Jesus sent him to his home, saying, "Do not even enter the village." Temple tax in fish's mouth. When they came to Capernaum, the collectors of the 2 drachma tax went up to Peter and said, "Does your teacher not pay the tax?" He said, "Yes." And when he came into the house, Jesus spoke to him first, saying, "What do you think, Simon? From whom do kings of the earth take toll or tax? From their sons or from others?" And when he said, "From others," Jesus said to him, "Then the sons are free. However, not to give offense to them, go to the sea and cast a hook and take the first fish that comes up, and when you open its mouth, you will find a shekel. Take that and give it to them for me and for yourself." Jesus heals a man born blind. As Jesus passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "It was not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world." Having said these things, he spit on the ground and made mud with the saliva. Then he anointed the man's eyes with the mud and said to him, "Go, wash in the pool of Siloam." So he went and washed and came back seeing. The neighbors and those who had seen him before as a beggar were saying, "Is this not the man who used to sit and beg?" Some said, "It is he." Others said, "No, but he is like him." He kept saying, "I am the man." So they said to him, "Then how were your eyes opened?" Jesus heals a man on the Sabbath one Sabbath. When Jesus went to dine at the house of a ruler of the Pharisees, they were watching him carefully. And behold, there was a man before him who had dropsy. Jesus responded to the lawyers and Pharisees, saying, "Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath or not?" But they remained silent. Then Jesus took him and healed him and sent him away. And he said to them, "Which of you, having a son or an ox that has fallen into a well on a Sabbath day, will not immediately pull him out?" And they could not reply to these things. Jesus cleanses 10 lepers. On the way to Jerusalem, Jesus was passing along between Samaria and Galilee. And as he entered a village, Jesus was met by 10 lepers who stood at a distance and lifted up their voices, saying, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." When he saw them, he said to them, "Go and show yourselves to the priests." And as they went, they were cleansed. Then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice. And he fell on his face at Jesus' feet, giving him thanks. Now he was a Samaritan. Then Jesus answered, "Were not 10 cleansed? Where are the 9? Was no one found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner?" And Jesus said to him, "Rise and go your way. Your faith has made you well." Jesus raises Lazarus. Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, "Lord, by this time there will be an odor, for he has been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me. But I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" The man who had died came out, his hands and feet bound with linen strips, and his face wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." Jesus curses the fig tree. In the morning, as Jesus was returning to the city, he became hungry, and seeing a fig tree by the wayside, he went to it and found nothing on it but only leaves. And Jesus said to it, "May no fruit ever come from you again." And the fig tree withered at once. When the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, "How did the fig tree wither at once?" Jesus answered them, "Truly, I say to you, if you have faith and do not doubt, you will not only do what has been done to the fig tree, but even if you say to this mountain, 'Be taken up and thrown into the sea,' it will happen. And whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive if you have faith." Jesus stood on the shore, yet the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, "Children, do you have any fish?" They answered him, "No." He said to them, "Cast the net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some." So they cast it, and now they were not able to haul it in because of the quantity of fish. That disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his outer garment, for he was stripped for work, and threw himself into the sea. The other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish. The Resurrection. Now after the Sabbath, toward the dawn of the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothing white as snow. And for fear of him, the guards trembled and became like dead men. But the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you seek Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, for he has risen as he said. Come, see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples that he has risen from the dead, and behold, he is going before you to Galilee. There you will see him. See, I have told you." So they departed quickly from the tomb with fear and great joy, and ran to tell his disciples. And behold, Jesus met them and said, "Greetings." And they came up and took hold of his feet and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell when you ask people what sin is, you'll get a wide range of answers, from murder to forgetting to call your mom on Mother's Day. Most of the time, people think of sin as bad behavior. And your bad behaviors often do reveal sin. But the Bible tells us that God pays more attention to our thoughts than our behaviors, because it's sinful thinking that leads to sinful behavior. So what is sin? Sin is the opposite of God. The Bible says, everything He does is good. He is good to everyone and has compassion on all He made. And everything that God has created is good. Psalm 111:7 NCV, Psalm 145:9, 1 Timothy 4:4. Everything God does is good, and everything He created is good. But when we take what God created and use it in bad ways, that is sin. For example, when you use prescription drugs the right way, they can bring helpful relief. But when you misuse and abuse drugs, something good becomes something harmful. Money is neither good nor bad. It can be used for great good, but it also can be used for incredibly bad things. God expects you to turn from your sins, and Saint, this message is meant for you. I know recently you have been feeling lost. You have asked the universe and your inner self for guidance and help, asking, what is meant for me? And is this all that is meant for me? This message is here to remind you that your higher self hasn't given up on you or your dreams. Your time is coming, so are your blessings. Just don't give up now, especially not in frustration or fear. This is a reminder to center yourself now in feelings of love, peace, and appreciation, and to focus upon your own path. Choose you, let others be, refocus, trust, have faith, and detach. Go with the flow. It's time to take action, knowing your worth, power, and purpose. No more holding yourself back. Take risks. Be you authentically. You can do this. When you're grateful, you're on the frequency of receiving. One of the greatest tricks to speed up manifestation is to be grateful before any physical manifestation. That's how you magnify your power. That's how you become a super attractor. Everything is energy. Everything is vibration. When you embody this feeling of gratitude, suddenly everything becomes possible. Gratitude is a magical frequency. It amplifies everything in your life. You are on a journey of spiritual evolution. AA. There is a purpose for everything that you experience in this life. The difficult, winding path you're on is leading you to your soul's destiny. You are heading in the right direction to complete and remove your cell from the karmic path. The choices you make now are important in this journey. Know that everyone around you has made a contract to assist you throughout your life by either giving you love or giving you difficulty. Look for the lessons each person brings to you. You can then choose to keep or release the energy of this experience with them. This will help you move your life forward in wonderful, life-expanding ways. You have a soft heart and a pure soul. That's why you feel everything so deeply. Be clear on one thing: this is your superpower, not your weakness. The world needs more of you, so don't suppress who you are. It is not your job to heal every person you meet, but it's your job to make sure your kind nature remains intact throughout your journey. Stay close to those who genuinely appreciate you, and stay far away from those whose only goal is to take advantage of your energy. You one of the rare gems the universe has blessed with heightened clairvoyance and divinity. Keep shining your light everywhere you go. The thoughts you keep feeding yourself affects your feelings and is impressed upon subconscious mind. Subconscious mind is like a sponge. It soaks up everything, and it doesn't really filter out what's good or bad. It just takes it all in. Over time, these thoughts become a part of who you are. They shape your personality. This personality attracts its tribe and opportunity. One who always complains and lacks gratitude blocks the blessings and opportunities. They attract more of the things that annoys them. So be a magnet of your desires by feeding your subconscious wisely. You've got the power to shape your thoughts and in turn, your life. You don't have to physically do anything in order to be productive. A day spent shifting your perspective, or laying your thoughts to rest, or ironing out your intentions is more powerful than anything you'll get up to do. Start learning to hold yourself accountable in new ways. When anyone asks what you did this weekend, it's okay to say, "I got my mind right." It will pave the way for all the physical things you intended to do to begin with. Source messages. The more you free yourself from limitations, the more you'll realize how it wasn't about freeing yourself at all. Because there was never a limitation to begin with. There was only the idea of one. Sure, that idea may have been so deeply ingrained that it was extremely convincing. But want to know something wild? You convinced yourself of that limitation when it wasn't even true. And then your entire reality morphed to match that. All because you decided it. If you can convince yourself of a limitation, you can also convince yourself of limitless possibilities, endless joy, and magnificent miracles. And then you'll get to watch your reality morph to match that. Even in the middle of your hurts, habits, and hang-ups, God is watching over you. King David says to God in Psalm 23 verse 6, "Surely your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life." When David says, "Surely your goodness will pursue me," he's not saying, "Surely only good things are going to happen to me." David knew as well as anyone that bad things happen to good people. He had been abused and treated unfairly and was still a man who followed God's heart. But he had also sinned terribly against people who had done no wrong to him. David's point is that no matter how bad, evil, or difficult something seems, and no matter how much we mess things up, God will work it out for good. His goodness is pursuing us, no matter which way we turn. It's one of God's great promises that He's given to believers. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Romans 8:28. In everything that happens to us, God is working for our good if we love God and are following His plans. This verse does not say that all things are good. But if you're a believer, all things are working together for God's plan and purposes, which are always good. That means there is no difficulty, dilemma, defeat, or disaster in the life of a believer that God can't ultimately turn toward His purpose. When you believe that, it changes how you view everything in your life, your relationships with God and other people, your past, your future, and whatever you are facing today. As you trust in God's good work in your life, you will be able to face even your toughest challenges with confidence. Gentleness is persuasive. If you have a successful career in sales, you may know this truth already. There was a time when the hard sell, the loudest advertisement, or the strongest sales pitch might have closed a deal. But today, gentleness works. Most people today buy something because someone they trust recommended it. A trusted friend or salesperson's gentle recommendation is far more persuasive than a loud sales pitch. And that's not just true in sales, it's true in just about every area of life. The Bible says this over and over again. Proverbs 25:15 says, "Gentle speech breaks down rigid defenses." Are you trying to convince a family member or co-worker to do something that they're feeling defensive about? Gentle words, not pushy tactics, will get through their defenses. A different translation of Proverbs 25:15 says it this way: "A gentle word can get through to the hard-headed." What does this mean for you? If you're a parent or teacher, screaming at a child never works. Anger and frustration only create fear, resentment, and defensiveness. What does work? Gently disciplining in love. Here's yet another translation of the same verse, Proverbs 25:15. Patience and gentle talk can convince a ruler and overcome any problem. Many of us don't live in cultures with a ruler, but we all have some kind of boss, supervisor, or authority in our lives. This translation reminds us that with gentleness, we can persuade even those in authority over us. Being